Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Tonight on Our News, the PM in quarantine as close relatives test positive for COVID-19. Government officials outline the social do's and don'ts ahead of the holidays. Has the Omicron variant spread to the Bahamas? And the F&M leader defends the Minutes administration's purchase of the Grand Lucayan. Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina Dragovich. Topping news tonight, the Bahamas could be facing the worst wave of COVID-19 infections since the start of the pandemic, according to Prime Minister Philip Davis, who outlined new safety rules to mitigate against the spread of the virus. Davis addressed reporters from a quarantine space this afternoon. Jasmine Brown has the details.
The Prime Minister using his family situation to point out just how dire the COVID situation has become seemingly overnight as he asks Bahamians to act responsibly this holiday season. COVID cases have doubled and tripled over the last few days. On Thursday, the Bahamas recorded 140 cases, up from 79 cases recorded the day before. The Davis family has been impacted as well following a family gathering.
Last weekend, we had a family gathering, which included several family members who traveled here from abroad. Even though everyone was vaccinated and everyone tested negative before travel, several of those who were visiting from abroad tested positive on the 5th day after arrival in the country. Since then, my wife and other family members have tested positive. I remain negative. Because they were vaccinated, they are either asymptomatic or are experiencing only mild symptoms. I'm so grateful that that is the case.
As cases climb, Davis said effective immediately, rules related to gatherings will be tightened.
We are changing the rules about the size of gatherings that are permitted. Indoor gatherings should not have more than 20 people. Outdoor gatherings no more than 30.
Travel rules will also change.
Bahamians and visitors must test negative within 3 days of entering the country instead of 5. And beginning on January 7th, a negative PCR test will be required for all.
Davis says the government is continuing to progress with free COVID testing and is getting ready to mobilize multiple field hospitals should hospitalizations spike. He says plans are underway to utilize the nursing school and the national stadium, and the government is in discussions with an international partner to open a field hospital in Grand Bahama. In the meantime, he says Bahamians should prepare for the worst.
Because Omicron is so contagious, we could be entering the worst phase of the pandemic. We must do whatever we can to reduce the total number of infections. Activities that were relatively safe just last week are no longer safe. That is how quickly things have changed here. We all need to adjust our own thinking about what risks are acceptable, and we need to do so quickly.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
With major holiday events planned for this weekend, one event has already been canceled as other organizers are left wondering whether to continue planning or postpone after the Prime Minister's update. The Ministry of Health immediately after sought to offer a bit of clarification. Kyle Joaquin has that.
In the unfortunate event that we're not able to move forward, we will have to refund those.
The One Blood Old School Reggae Party was 2 years in the making after pressing pause last year due to the pandemic. And when we spoke to event organizer Leah Davis just after the Prime Minister's update, she was still optimistic that it could go on as planned for this Sunday. However, this evening it was decided that the event would be canceled, and those who already bought their $100 tickets would be refunded, despite plans to make the event as safe as possible.
Our plan was to have everyone tested on the day of the event, so within 24 hours, and just to kind of make sure that we have a COVID-free and as safe an event as possible. We were reducing the capacity of the square as well, just to kind of, again, make sure that we're doing our best to be safe and in compliance and making sure that everybody has a good time in a safe environment.
But this is the story for many other big events planned for the upcoming holiday weekend, with new rules to follow.
This is very serious business, and if you want to make money from the public, you're going to have to follow the rules.
National Security Minister Wayne Monroe taking a firm stance on enforcing COVID restrictions this holiday weekend. After the Prime Minister's update, placing restrictions of up to 30 people for outdoor gatherings, there were many organizers wondering what happens to their event and patrons wondering if they'd get their money back. However, during a Ministry of Health press conference afterwards, Monroe explained that for those events already planned, there's a list of approvals they must have.
If it is a commercial event, you will require an occasional license from the Royal Bahamas Police Force. I can tell you, having spoken to the Commissioner and ACP dames this morning, that you will not get it if you do not satisfy them. One, that you can comply with the protocols, and two, if you don't commit to providing security that will be provided by the Police Staff Association in their off-duty officer regime.
Failure to do so will result in tickets being issued and the event being shut down. Now, from a health standpoint, there are certain requirements that have to be met by the Ministry of Health.
They will speak to the requirement for vaccination and or COVID-19 testing for participants at those events. It will also seek to differentiate between the limitations, the numbers on persons who are able to gather in indoor settings versus outdoor settings.
For Our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Citing a rapid rise in new COVID-19 cases, health officials think the more transmissible Omicron variant is already in the Bahamas. Health Minister Dr. Michael Darville.
I want to say this very clearly. After reviewing the data for the last 3 days and the infectivity as well as the rate of transmission, we are convinced without the gene sequencing that the Omicron virus is more than likely in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Dr. Darville says hundreds of samples have been sent to a lab in South America for testing.
A couple days ago, 200 plus samples was sent to a diagnostic lab in Panama. Those samples are being assessed for gene sequencing to determine whether the Omicron virus is in country.
In other news, 2 Venezuelan nationals were arrested during a major drug seizure on Crooked Island. The men and the drugs were transported to the capital this evening. Their flight touched down at Odyssey Aviation around 6 p.m. We'll have more details on this bust in a later newscast. Meanwhile, Free National Movement leader Michael Pintard defending the former government's purchase of the Grand Lucayan Resort, saying the Minnis administration was not prepared to allow the hotel to close. However, he also admits if it were up to him, some aspects of the deal would have been different. Kyle Joaquin has that.
While I would have certainly negotiated the deal differently, the reality is the eventual deal was impacted, in my view, negatively by both Dorian and the pandemic.
According to Pintard, some parts of the deal would have been different if he had his say. 3 years after the Minnis administration purchased the Grand Lucayan Resort for $65 million, in a move it said would save Bahamian jobs, and a year after an agreement was signed for a sale to Royal Caribbean and the ITM Group, the Davis administration canceled it. Tourism and Investments Minister Chester Cooper said it was simply not in the best interest of the Bahamian people. However, F&M leader Michael Pintard said it was essential to send the right signal that the government was confident in the rebound of Grand Bahama.
Including discussing the possibility of additional airlift, all of those things working in tandem with the developments that were signaled by Carnival, by RCL, all of those things working in tandem with each other spelled a good sign for the revitalization of the tourism product in Grand Bahama.
But there were some unforeseen roadblocks that dragged things on for years, eventually not working out in the administration's favor.
Unfortunately, there was Dorian and of course COVID, which affected a number of those projections, both by us and private sector investors. And so those things affected the nature of the deal that was struck.
The Minnis administration ended up spending millions more on the hotel month after month. Pintard said it was an arrangement that lingered on far too long.
And it was contingent upon, or it depended upon, a deal being done with Hutchison Whampoa around the port. It made it very difficult for us to move along with the hotel deal. As long as there was a delay in the port arrangement being secured, we were going to have problems with the hotel sale.
While ITM has pulled out, Royal Caribbean, in a statement, has already expressed interest in trying again. Cooper has said there are several interested buyers on the table, and the search will begin to choose the best one. Pintard said as this is not a matter he plans on playing politics with, he supports government moving on and finding a new buyer.
If we can decouple it, as it has been done, we see no difficulty with that. We now look forward to a suitable buyer being identified, and we get on with the business of continuing to revive the tourism product in Grand Bahama.
For Our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Perfect conditions for last-minute Christmas shopping. Greg Thompson is in the Weather Center.
Thanks, Christina, and happy holidays, everybody. Our first look at weather is brought to you tonight by Ports International, trusted medical supplies for a better quality of life. Very nice conditions outside our studios right now. Temperatures in the low 70s, 72, under mostly clear skies. Your winds are out of the northeast at 9 miles per hour, and a very comfortable feels-like temperature at 70 degrees. Frontal boundary down in the deep south across the Nago, Turks and Caicos Islands. Exiting the area, isolated showers and thunderstorms associated with that affecting those two islands and possibly even the Make One area, but we expect a high-pressure system to build behind that, generating some very nice conditions through the remainder of the day, tonight, and into your holiday weekend. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on Our News, health officials reviewing school reopening plans and the BPSU's call for clarity over increment payments for airport authority workers. That's coming up when Our News returns.
Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
A spike in COVID-19 cases has prompted officials to take another look at plans to welcome students back to classrooms in less than a month. Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Michael Darville was asked if officials are considering delaying the resumption of hybrid learning on January 11th.
We're very concerned about what we're seeing in the country, and over the next few days, there will be a determination what direction we would take.
While many private schools resumed face-to-face learning months into the new school year, all public schools remain on a virtual learning platform. Well, the Bahamas Public Service Union is calling for clarification from government over increment payments by the Airport Authority. We're told Airport Authority workers on the Family Islands were informed that increments will be paid over a 6-month period. Union President Kimsley Ferguson says the Prime Minister informed him the money has been set aside for those workers. He's questioning why they didn't receive the full amount.
I'm concerned that the persons that have been in authority at the Airport Authority has displayed a very oppressive attitude towards the workers and the gatekeepers of this country. We're advised that the Airport Authority is utilizing those funds for other things other than what it was earmarked for. The union is concerned. These persons, some of them were owed monies for years.
He added workers are owed increments from as far back as 2015. Ferguson says he reached out to officials from the Airport Authority, but the matter was not resolved.
I am making an appeal to the general manager of the Airport Authority to do what is right by these individuals who have suffered over the years.
Director of Aviation Algernon Cargill says he was advised the employees received what was negotiated by the union and its president. Still to come on Our News, business is slow at the Cable Beach Straw Market and hope for the holidays as the Salvation Army feeds 500 families for Christmas. Stay with us.
Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
This is our news. Welcome back. A slow end to 2021 during a typically busy season for straw vendors. The Cable Beach Straw Market recently reopened, but it wasn't exactly what vendors expected.
Yes, ma'am. This is the only ones that open for now. Like to walk on in? Yes, ma'am. I'm looking for the beer shirt. The coolest? Yeah.
After being closed for nearly 2 years, vendors at the Cable Beach Market are back in business. But it has been slower than usual.
Business is very slow. As you can see, there's only 2 of us here, at least three of us here. So it's very, very slow. Some days I come out and I don't make $1.
Many stalls still remain shuttered up at the once busy market. Chanel Stirrup tells our news foot traffic has significantly dropped off with the closure of the Malia Resort, and the pandemic did not help.
It hasn't been easy. It hasn't been easy at all.
Did you have to pick up a new trade or something in the meantime when you couldn't reopen?
Yes. But everybody tried to do something to help themselves.
We spoke to Maxine Lightfoot on her first day back at the market since it reopened about 2 weeks ago.
It was not good at all. I don't know if you had seen that I had made a sale just now and I just was about to pack up.
The vendors have been on a rotation system since the Cable Beach Market received permission to reopen. Carolyn from the Straw Market Authority says it's the best way to keep everyone safe.
You won't see all the vendors out one time. So what we have done, we grouped them in A and B groups, and that differentiates and say which day A would be out or which day B will be out. But it's the best that can be expected right now.
Music still churns out from the nearby Daiquiri Shack, helping to draw some traffic to the area, but even the owner admits business isn't what it used to be. Despite a slow end to the year, the vendors say they are hopeful things will get better in 2022.
Well, I'm hoping for greatness. I'm looking for great expectation in this half mile that we're going through. Once everybody has stayed in the protocol line, sanitized and stayed distant and everything like that, great expectation. I'm looking forward in making lots of money to make up for the time that I were home.
The Salvation Army bringing glad tidings and a Christmas dinner for hundreds of families ahead of the Christmas holidays, as many are still recouping from the blow brought on by COVID-19. Bethany McDermott reports.
Residents line Jean Street all looking to get on the compound of Central Baptist Church to get assistance from the Salvation Army. That assistance ranging from toys for the kids to a hot meal to grocery store vouchers.
Simply beautiful. We are enjoying it. I like it, and I hope it continues.
This sentiment was shared by dozens of people who lined up for the Salvation Army's drive-through community luncheon. Divisional Commander Rudolph Mayo says their aim is to assist 500 families across New Providence.
But the people are getting here now. They're getting voucher for ham and turkey, and they're getting a voucher to buy groceries that they're going to be able to go to the supermarket and choose for themselves what they will want to put on their table to bring joy.
Mayo said residents of family islands like Grand Bahama, Abaco, and Duluth will also receive assistance. These residents say help couldn't have come at a better time.
I think it's a wonderful privilege for them to be doing to a lot of especially the seniors, because they always look out for the senior, and I give God thanks for that.
Yes, they're doing an excellent job. They have always been helpful to the society.
Mayo had these words of encouragement for people facing hard times during the holiday season.
There is hope in the Lord, no matter what the circumstances. It's not going to last for eternity. God is with us, and we have concerned citizens that are meeting every day to see how the economy to be bouncing up.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Bethany McDermott.
Still to come, Greg is back with the holiday forecast, and the Children's Emergency Hostel is in need of donations. Find out how you can help after this.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
Welcome back to our news. Santa delivering sunshine for Christmas. Greg is back with the holiday forecast.
Thanks again, Christina, and welcome back everybody for your second look at weather. Frontal boundary now in the deep south across the extreme southeastern islands. It will exit the area later on tonight and into tomorrow, generating some very unsettled weather across the extreme southeastern islands. Inago and the Turks and Caicos Islands could see a couple more showers later on tonight, but behind that, a nice high pressure system will be building in with some dry air mass, as well as very little in terms of any rainfall. That will continue to dominate our weather into the weekend, into your holiday weekend. So we're looking at some very nice conditions for that period of time before we do see another frontal boundary get near. That high will generate some breezy conditions tomorrow, and we will continue to experience that into the weekend. Boating forecast for all areas tonight through tomorrow. Winds will be out of the northeast at 15 to 20 knots. Caution flag posted for you boaters out there. Seas running 4 to 6 feet over the ocean. Tide will be high at 10:42 tonight. Here's a look now at your national forecast. A look now at your extended forecast through Thursday. That's a look at our weather. Have a safe evening and a great holiday. Back to you, Christina.
Thanks, Greg. Well, the Children's Emergency Hostel has seen a drop in donations during the pandemic, according to business manager Charlene Gibson. The McKinney Drive home houses 26 children ages 1 to 15.
It's a nonprofit organization, and since 2021 and 2020 with the pandemic, we have seen a decrease in the amount of donations, monetary, as well as other items that come into the hostel. So it kind of put a strain on us, but through it all, we're still here.
This Christmas, she says the children are in need of shoes and clothing.
This year, we opted not to ask for toys because we had overwhelmed with toys here at the hostel.
So what are some of the things you would prefer? I know you say not to ask for toys.
Well, clothing for the most part, shoes, underclothes. They really need shoes and clothing because they've been indoors for such a long time and not going out. They've outgrown most of the clothes that they presently have here. And we want to appeal to the general public. If you can help, we look forward to seeing you. Just give us a call at 807-6155, or you can send us an email with your intent at bcehfinance@gmail.com. Attention, Ms. Gibson.
Thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Christina Dragovich. We'll see you right back here tomorrow night. Stay tuned for tonight's Hallmark feature, One Royal Holiday. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas.